Just kidding. Hey. What is up? Welcome to the Elite Athlete Project podcast. I'm your co-host, Albert Squires.
And I'm Nick Ladden.
This is number 8.
Why Olympic lifting sucks for athletes. And I know...
Trash! Basura!
It's going to rustle some feathers right now, especially for a lot of old-timers, strength and conditioning coaches, or probably what a lot of people have learned around what's going on. Oh, how to get big, powerful, fast, strong. You got to do Olympic lifting and stuff like that. It's not necessarily the case, and we're going to tell you exactly why that is the case.
Why Ollie lifts are beta.
Ollie.
Ollie.
Olympic lifting.
Olympic lifting, yes.
Right, so when we think of Olympic lifting, we're talking about your traditional, full cleans. We're talking about the snatches. We're talking about the clean and jerks, things like that, which in my time in college when I was going through our strength and conditioning, we had so many days. We'd almost start every single workout with an Olympic lifting. It's not anything against my coach. I think my coach had a lot of great things. That the strength and conditioning coach had a lot of things that were good about it. But the more and more research that's coming out, and the more you dive into Olympic lifting and kind of take it off this pedestal, you realize that it might not just be, it's all cracked up to be for athletes. And when we're talking about athletes, we're talking about our field sport athletes. We're not talking about Olympic lifting athletes. We're not talking about any sort of strength athletes.
Crossfitters
or anything like that. We're talking about people that need to get on the field or on the court, moving, rotating, running, all the things that make an athlete an athlete.
Ball sports, essentially.
Ball sports, exactly.
For the most part,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, actually, even endurance sports and stuff, too. I would even say probably.
Yeah. Track for sure, all that stuff. There's just a thought even around people, and because I'll ask, I'll build programs out for them and stuff, and they're like, okay, what's it going to be? Is it going to be like the main lifts and Olympic lifting and stuff? And I'm like, yes and no, because it's not quite the most beneficial for your athlete. We're going to break down why right now it's not quite beneficial as much as they think. I mean, I think the number one thing that comes to mind for me is what's the intention behind the movement, right? In Olympic lifting, we think, okay, power development, right? Lower leg power development. But it's not the best at creating power development for it. It's one of the most common things you use, but it's not the most thing that can generate the most lower leg power or development for it.
There's a learning curve to it.
Dude, huge learning curve.
And that affects how heavy you're able to go. It affects how fast you can progress on the lift itself.
Yeah, so that learning curve, I mean, to this day, and I've been doing it for 10 years, I still have to, there's tweaks and things that I'm like, that wasn't quite right, or this isn't quite right. And I'm spending this time trying to, well, I'm not anymore because I know better now, but, I used to spend all this time trying to be like, okay, and the clean up to the top and then the elbows through, drop down, all this stuff, right? And the whole purpose of me trying to do a clean is to get just I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to just be strong, trying to be powerful, but now I'm bogged down with my mind with all these technical processes in my head, overthinking the thing, right?
And if you want to improve a skill set, you need to be working at max intent, meaning max effort. And if you're not able to execute at max effort because you're focused on all these other things, how's that happen?
And for everyone being like, oh, well, why don't you just spend a bunch of time doing technical work before they get into it? Why am I going to waste that time when there's other more beneficial things out there that they could be doing, like hex bar jumps or sleds or things like that? They're going to develop that power that are safer.
And let's be real here. If you're an athlete, especially a ball sport athlete, you have a skill set that you need to develop on the field. Okay, so most of your time isn't spent in the gym. Most of your time isn't necessarily spent on the track. A lot of time is spent there to get better, of course, but you need to be efficient with that time is all I'm getting at, So it's I don't need to be wasting time developing a skill so that I can get a small benefit from. Like me, I squat over 400 pounds, but I've never cleaned over 275.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even now, it's shaky form. So I'm not able to go max intent at what this does that even benefit me at this point?
It's that cost benefit trade-off.
Yeah.
Right? What's the benefit of this what is it costing me? Is it costing me time? Is it costing me potential risk for injury?
Yeah.
Because I think that's another huge one due to the level of technicality and that learning curve that there is. If your athlete isn't mobile enough and strong in all these positions, like you go through, you do it, their arms and knees are caving in, right? Like, oh, great. Like, we may have got you 0.001% better, but we also put you at a 75% risk for getting injured. Like, it doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't at all. like it's crazy now because, I mean, it's the truth. It's a powerful looking movement.
Yeah, you look like a badass when you get it done.
Clean, I mean, anybody doing, like, especially hip snatches, you look like an absolute badass in the gym.
Yeah.
Because most people can't do that. I've been lifting forever. I struggle with stuff over my head, So it's like when you see somebody do that, it looks very athletic. But again, how is that going to help me catch a ball? How's that going to help me run faster when I could do other things in that place that I can learn almost in a day or two or right now versus something that's going to take me weeks, if not months, if not years.
Yeah, years.
And even then, actually, I take it about years because you have to get timing right, And you want to think, if you want to be powerful, look at the top lifters in the world. They're not fast off the ground.
They're not. And that's another thing is that we could take it back to that intention, right? So there's more research being done, showing that maybe these heavy Olympic one rep
Ollie
max
lifts are beta.
aren't necessarily the best at producing power when it comes to an athlete because you're not holding a barbell while you're running down the field, right?
Yes.
Those are two very different types of stimulus.
Very different. And again, although you're Olympic lifters, CrossFitters, you are badasses. You're good.
Yeah, your sport requires it.
Your sport requires it. Athletes that are ball sports or even endurance athletes, you don't need this.
Yeah.
So,
again, let's just recap for everyone.
Yes.
It's the technicality of the lifts. It's the time it takes to learn and master this.
Long time.
One we didn't even touch on is the mobility requirements and stability requirements of this lift that, Jesus Christ, you're going to have to go another hour or so in the gym. I don't know how much time you have.
Most people can't even squat correctly. I mean, let alone.
Yeah, and before you say, like, oh, you shouldn't just throw mobility, like, you should work on it. Yes, I'm not saying not to work on your mobility. I'm just saying that maybe you don't need to be in a full squat with the overhead to be good at football. I'm saying maybe you work on hip mobility and how high you can raise that leg, your ankle mobility, things that translate into running faster, being better on the field instead of just following the traditional Olympic lifting mobility. That's what I'm saying here.
And what is mobility again? It's stuck in my head now that Robbie, two podcasts ago.
Yeah.
Again, it's range of motion, but under tension. So there has to be some type of force applied as you increase that range of motion.
Exactly.
That's mobility.
Yes, it's not just range of motion with this.
No.
So that one, right, where are we at? 4 now? The 5th one is the safety concerns of the athlete.
Yeah. So basically 1 and 2, that learning curve, how long it takes to master. That whole time you're developing this, you're putting yourself at risk for injury. You're putting yourself in weird positions with heavy weight. And then you're supposed to go out on the field and perform. Again, what else is that doing? That's ingraining these bad movement patterns.
Exactly.
Of how to catch weight. So then when a force is applied, what's your body going to cheat to? Those movements that you've been doing with that bar.
Yeah, and I think, we're ripping on it for sure because it's not quite the best thing, I think, for these athletes. No. But what are some, they got it. They're like, okay, well, my eyes have been open. I've seen the light, yes. Right? Like maybe Ollie lifting, doing snatches, or doing these things aren't quite the best for me, but I understand that we still need to develop power in these areas. So what are some other movements that they can do? And maybe let's break it down by body part, right? Like if we're thinking about like vertical forces, like jumping, right? What are some things that these athletes can be doing that are a lot safer and get them a way more stimulus to get the response that we want, which is AKA jumping, running, all that stuff better, right?
Right.
So,
well, the first one, which I would argue is one of the best actual movements for athletes, is the high pull.
Yeah.
It's for one, like when we go through those 5 things, it's easy to learn. If you have like even a hex bar or something, it's almost even easier to learn because they're able to get in positioning right away. But with the barbell, it's maybe a session or two that where they can go max intent.
And this is the one that's most correlated to Olympic lifting.
Yes.
Like it's broken down like it's the high pull, the first pull, right? That's what generates the force for a lot of these cleans and things like that.
Yes.
So this is one that would be the most related to Olympic lifting.
And it's basically jumping with a bar. I mean, you're doing an initial pull off the ground. It's constant acceleration, though. That's the main key here. And that's what applies to actual sports. Because when you get into that concentric portion of the movement, so when you're springing off the ground, sprinting, you need something working that's accelerating through that. High pull does it.
Yeah, and I think another thing that the high pull does that cleans and all the other stuff doesn't is that you get the full follow through, right?
Yes.
So many athletes lose power production and the opportunity to gain more power because they're not following through with the movement. Now, if you're like, what does that mean? Like, let's think about a baseball swing, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if you stopped right when you made contact with the ball. Wow. What? Like, you're going to hit dribblers all day.
So what he's talking about is when you think of a clean, even the best people are the top cleaners in the world, top Olympic lifters in the world. They only have to get it to a certain height. That's the name of the game for Olympic athletes, is get the bar to a certain height so I can get under it, catch it, and front squat it up. You know? So that's the limitation we're talking about versus a high pull. It's like if you're strong enough, that thing just will keep going.
Yeah,
you know?
You're trying to throw that bar to the
Later.
ceiling. Yeah.
See ya.
Exactly. Now, the next one I want to talk about is because I do actually find that this style of Oli Olympic lifting is actually beneficial for athletes, and that's the hang position.
Yes.
And it's purely because you are eccentrically loading to concentrically applying force. So you have to overcome what's called the amerization phase when you're lengthening out to when you have that brief moment of isometric before you go into it. So it's like the impulse, right? Boom, right?
Yes.
Which is just like a jump. It's just like a run, any of that stuff. So that amerization phase, I think, is a great part that the hang clean overcomes that maybe the traditional full clean from the floor doesn't necessarily hit because you're lowering the bar down and then it's a big explosion up.
Right. And if you think of that movement, okay, if you're standing up, you got a bar in your hands here. The first movement I'm doing is I'm loading up these hips. I'm loading into the feet in the middle of my feet into that ground, just like I would if I was about to jump.
Yep.
You know, it's a powerful position that translates over into sport.
Yep. And when I'm saying this, we're not doing full clean. Full clean means going down and squatting up. I'm talking power, like just get the bar up, right? Because we're trying to apply force vertically into the ground as much as possible. And if we're limiting ourselves because we're not getting that full follow through by worrying about how we're dropping under the bar and then coming up, we're losing a little bit on that peak power production for
100%.
it. Now you can do variations of this if you wanted to do a snatch, grip, or anything on both of the ones, but those are really the main two.
That's it, really.
That I would do as an Olympic lifting. Other than that, I would be doing hex bar jumps, explosive, like even dumbbell sort of stuff. You can just swap it out,
rear leg elevation stuff. So Bulgarian, you even thinking quarter squats, high squats, throwing some bands on once in a while with those. But I mean, yeah.
Other than that, and sleds are everyone's best friends.
Sleds, yeah,
for that
amazing.
Horizontal production.
Translate right over into acceleration too.
Exactly. So those are some things that are way more beneficial and are going to translate over onto the field a lot more than being over to go there and do a full clean and jerk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about upper body with it, but quick substitute push press. There you go. Boom. Got it.
Instead of the jerk. And the main reason why with the jerk where you're splitting and stuff is there's a learning curve to that.
And you're dropping under the bar.
Yeah. It just doesn't translate over. Again, when we're thinking jumping mechanics, push press again. Load the hips, explode.
Up.
Boom.
All you're doing is going up versus with the split jerk, you're load, drop, get under it, stand back on up, right?
Exactly.
For athletes, it's max intense, how much force we're applying into the ground, not getting away with little technical things, cheat sheets, or whatever techniques to get down with it.
So all Olympic lifts, Beto, it's just what it is, I'm sorry. I'm just Someone trolled on one of our most recent TikToks, and I just find it hilarious that beta is the word that everyone kind of attaches to.
Did you know that the new generation, I think it's 2010 plus, everyone born 2010 on are called Generation Alpha. I just find that highly amusing.
Oh my god. No. Who came up with this?
I don't know.
This is so bad.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But stop Olympic lifting. Start putting the time where it matters.
Yeah.
Start doing things that are going to actually help you get stronger, faster, more explosive, take way less time to learn, put you at way less injury, make you way less injury prone. Don't require all the things we talked about before to help you get to where you want to go. Because your time is valuable.
100%. And it's limited too. Depending on whatever sport you're playing, there's only so much time you have to play. You know, you can go chase a career in something else at any point in your life for the most part. But one thing though, make sure to reach out to us though. If you guys have questions or anything, we are very responsive on our socials. We're always hopping around throughout the day on different ones just to make sure that we are reaching out and engaging, our communities and stuff. So if you have questions, throw them down below. If you're on the podcast on YouTube, if not, hit us up on our
IGs, Athlete Academy. We
TikTok.
literally just did, and TikTok as well. We put out a lot of good quality content there. A lot of tips, advice for all of you guys to follow and learn more with. Mm-hmm. If you haven't listened to our previous podcast with Albert saying, hit us up. We'll be glad to do. We just did an athlete spotlight talking about his heel strike broken down, gave him some exercises to do, and if you want to be a part of that, just get in contact with us.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. I can't wait for the trolls to tell me how stupid we are, but
they're beta anyways. Don't matter, huh?
We'll see you when our athletes are doing better than yours. All right, cool.
Later.
We're out.
Fuck it, let's
Fire!
Let's shoot another one.
Boom!